Airport staff stop Black Tomb Guard from escorting fallen soldier. What happens next is shocking. The air in the airport terminal crackled, not with the usual hum of departures, but with a sudden, suffocating tension. Marcus Williams, his National Cemetery Honor Guard uniform a beacon of crisp perfection, felt the shift the moment Supervisor Taylor stepped deliberately into his path. "You're not allowed to be here," Taylor declared, his voice a blunt instrument designed to cut through any pretense of authority Marcus might hold. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a pronouncement, echoing the unspoken rule of who belonged and who didn't in this space. Passengers, drawn by the sudden shift in atmosphere, slowed their hurried pace, their cell phones subtly rising, lenses discreetly aimed. To them, it was just another airport squabble. But for Marcus, 34, every fiber of his being registered it as a crucible, a moment where a decade of dedicated service, a decade of battles fought for honor, was being fiercely tested. The coffin of Private James Rodriguez lay nearby at the departure gate, draped with an American flag, its folds meticulously placed with military precision. James, who had given his life protecting civilians overseas, was Marcus's sacred charge, a final journey of honor reserved for the cemetery's most devoted guards. Yet, to Taylor and his two smirking assistants, that impeccable uniform, that draped flag, meant nothing. "That uniform means nothing here," Taylor sneered, his words dripping with contempt. "You will follow our protocol or you will be escorted out." The raw injustice of it all hung heavy in the air, a physical weight pressing down on Marcus, challenging not just his passage, but the very essence of the sacrifice he was there to honor. Marcus Williams, at 34, was no stranger to adversity or the weight of responsibility. A decade prior, he was a young man from the Bronx who saw the Army not just as a uniform, but as a gateway to a future far grander than his beginnings. It was a path he embraced with fierce dedication, transforming himself from a hopeful recruit into one of the most respected National Cemetery Honor Guards in the country. His uniform, polished to a mirror shine, with every medal precisely placed and every fold impeccable, was more than fabric. It was a testament to every sacrifice, every fallen soldier he had honored, and every family he had stood beside. His commitment wasn't merely professional. It was deeply personal. He carried the words of his mentor like a guiding star. "When they try to put you down, remember why you're there." This wisdom resonated with the core of his being, a constant reminder of the profound dignity inherent in his duty. Escorting Private James Rodriguez on his final journey was not just an assignment. It was an honor reserved for the cemetery's most dedicated guards, a sacred trust. James had given his life protecting civilians in an overseas operation, and Marcus understood the immeasurable cost of that sacrifice. What was at stake now, in this sterile airport terminal, transcended mere protocol. It was the sanctity of military honor, the respect due to every soldier who had worn the uniform, and the unspoken promise made to their grieving families. If Marcus allowed Taylor's disdain to prevail, it wouldn't just be a personal slight. It would be a betrayal of Private Rodriguez's memory, of every veteran, and of the very principles of service and sacrifice that defined his life. This wasn't just about getting a coffin to a gate. It was about upholding the non-negotiable dignity of those who had given everything for their country. It was a stand for respect itself, a battle Marcus knew he could not, and would not, lose. Sources. Protocols, kid? Taylor's laugh was a harsh, grating sound that bounced off the high ceilings of the terminal, echoing with derision. "You follow my rules here. This military charade isn't impressing anyone." His two assistants, Mike and Johnson, chuckled obsequiously, their approval feeding Taylor's inflated sense of power and reveling in the public humiliation. What had begun as a seemingly routine honor escort was rapidly curdling into a spectacle, drawing an ever-growing crowd. Passengers, initially just slowing their pace, now stopped entirely, their cell phones no longer discreet but openly pointed, recording every contentious word and dismissive gesture. An elderly woman, her face etched with disapproval, muttered audibly about disrespect, but Taylor, emboldened by his perceived authority and the captive audience, ignored her completely. "Look around you," he gestured dramatically, sweeping his hand across the bustling terminal. These people have flights to catch, important appointments. They're not going to be stuck here because of your parade. The implication was clear. Marcus, and by extension, the fallen soldier he sought to honor, were an inconvenient impediment to the public schedule. Marcus, however, had faced this brand of dismissive arrogance before. Just 3 weeks prior, another supervisor had attempted to bar him from an official event. 2 months before that, his very legitimacy had been questioned during a solemn ceremony. Each incident, every caustic word, every dismissive gesture, had been meticulously documented. Every witness identified, every detail recorded. This was not his first encounter with such blatant disregard for military service, and certainly not his most challenging. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus stated, his voice a quiet counterpoint to the supervisor's bluster, his composure a stark contrast to Taylor's escalating aggression. He watched the crowd grow, their collective attention now fixed on the unfolding drama. This soldier gave his life for his country. He deserves to be escorted with the dignity his sacrifice demands. Sacrifice. Taylor spat the word, as if it left a bitter taste in his mouth. The only sacrifice here is the time these honest people are wasting on this charade. It was in that precise moment that Marcus's perception sharpened. Taylor wasn't merely exercising his authority. He was performing. Every word was calculated to humiliate, every gesture designed to diminish, not just Marcus, but the profound weight of what he represented. Marcus discreetly tapped the small recorder nestled in his pocket, a habit forged through years of confronting similar disrespect. "Interesting perspective, Mr. Taylor," Marcus stated calmly, his voice unwavering. "Can you repeat that?" The question caught Taylor off guard, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. His mask of authority faltered for a second. "Repeat what?" he stammered. "Your opinion on military sacrifice," Marcus clarified, his gaze steady. "I'm sure Private Rodriguez's family would love to hear it." Taylor hesitated, but his ingrained arrogance quickly reasserted itself. "Don't intimidate me with your empty threats. I'm in charge here, and this circus is over." He remained oblivious to the fact that Marcus's quiet questions and unwavering demeanor were not born of simple defiance, but of a meticulously constructed strategy. What Taylor didn't know was that Marcus had spent years systematically documenting precisely this kind of demeaning treatment, every incident, every comment, every moment of disrespect. And today, in front of hundreds of witnesses, with countless cell phone cameras rolling, Taylor's fate was already being sealed. As Taylor continued his blustering display of power, Marcus remained outwardly calm, his eyes fixed on the flag-draped casket of Private Rodriguez. Inside, an absolute certainty began to solidify. This man had just committed the gravest error of his professional life. Marcus knew this wasn't merely a fleeting airport conflict. It was another entry in a meticulously assembled dossier, a critical piece of a much larger, ongoing mission. He had faced this kind of resistance before countless times. Each incident, from a supervisor trying to bar him from an official event 3 weeks prior to his legitimacy being questioned during a ceremony 2 months earlier, had been painstakingly recorded. Every dismissive word, every condescending gesture, every witness, all had been carefully documented, serving as irrefutable evidence. This wasn't a reactive measure. It was a proactive strategy honed over years. Marcus understood that the casual disrespect he and other military personnel encountered was not isolated, but indicative of a deeper, systemic bias. This systematic documentation wasn't just a habit. It was a testament to his foresight and intellectual precision. Over the past 3 years alone, he had amassed more than 40 hours of audio and video evidence specifically detailing situations just like this one. His phone, now discreetly activating its recording app, was merely one tool in a comprehensive arsenal. What Taylor, in his short-sighted arrogance, failed to comprehend was the true depth of Marcus Williams's capabilities. Marcus was not merely a cemetery guard. He was a decorated veteran, a man who held a master's degree in military law. This academic background, combined with his extensive experience, had given him a profound understanding of legal protocols, and the mechanisms of accountability. His calmness was not passivity. It was the stillness of a predator waiting for the opportune moment. Each question he posed, each seemingly innocuous gesture, was a calculated move. When he asked Taylor to repeat his disparaging remarks about military sacrifice, it wasn't an empty threat. It was an invitation, a deliberate coaxing for Taylor to further incriminate himself, knowing full well that Private Rodriguez's family, and indeed the entire nation, would eventually hear those words. Marcus smiled inwardly, a small, almost imperceptible curve of his lips, as he observed Taylor digging his own professional grave with every syllable. His folder already contained similar cases of other military guards who had faced discriminatory treatment, and today's confrontation was poised to be the most public, most undeniable addition to that collection. Marcus's composure was the ultimate expression of his strategic depth, a quiet power that Taylor, blinded by his own hubris, utterly failed to perceive. Sources. As Taylor continued his theatrical performance, completely unaware of the digital net tightening around him, a young woman tentatively approached Marcus. Her voice was quiet, imbued with a genuine respect that cut through the supervisor's crude bluster. "Excuse me, sir," she began. "But is that really a soldier?" "Yes," Marcus replied, his voice calm and dignified, seizing the moment to educate the growing crowd. "Private James Rodriguez. He died serving his country." Taylor, ever the showman, abruptly cut into the conversation, attempting to regain control of the narrative. "Don't feed this charade. Anyone can put on a uniform and pretend to be important." It was at that precise instant that Marcus felt a decisive shift. Taylor had not just crossed a line against him personally, but against every soldier who had ever served, every family who had ever endured the unimaginable loss of a child in combat. This was no longer just about his escort. It was about a desecration of honor itself. Just as Taylor's tirade reached a fever pitch, a firm, commanding voice sliced through the chaotic airport air. "Excuse me, is there a problem here?" Everyone turned. Approaching them was a woman of undeniable presence, still in civilian clothes, but carrying herself with a posture that demanded immediate, unspoken respect. She was 52, and had just disembarked from a military flight. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, immediately found Marcus, recognizing him. Taylor, oblivious to the newcomer's identity or gravitas, waved a dismissive hand. "Ma'am, this is none of your concern. We're dealing with an operational situation here." "General Morrison," Marcus greeted her with a respectful nod, a subtle acknowledgement that surprised those witnessing the scene. "We weren't expecting to see you here today." Taylor almost choked, his face contorting in disbelief. "General? You must be joking." The woman's voice cut through the air like a honed blade, crisp and authoritative. "Brigadier General Patricia Morrison, Special Operations Command." She introduced herself, her gaze unwavering as it fixed on Taylor. "And you are?" Taylor's arrogance visibly faltered, though his ingrained need to maintain his facade before his assistants, Mike and Johnson, briefly held sway. "Taylor, Operations Supervisor," he managed, his voice slightly less confident. "And with all due respect, General, this is a civilian airport. I determine the protocols here." Marcus observed the exchange with growing interest. He had met General Morrison 2 months prior, during an official ceremony where she had publicly lauded his exceptional work at the National Cemetery. What she, or Taylor, didn't know was that Marcus had already anticipated such a confrontation. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus stated calmly, pulling a folded document from the inner pocket of his impeccable uniform. "Would you like to verify my official documentation before we continue?" The tide had decisively begun to turn, propelled by Marcus's quiet, yet undeniably powerful connections. Taylor barely glanced at the document Marcus offered. "I don't care how many papers you have," he scoffed, his stubbornness momentarily overriding the flicker of doubt. "My decision is made." "Interesting," General Morrison interjected, her voice cutting through the tension as she smoothly took the document from Marcus's hand. Her eyes scanned it, and a knowing smile touched her lips. "Because this is a federal warrant for military honor escort, signed by the Secretary of Defense himself. Taylor's face blanched slightly, a faint pallor replacing his earlier flush, but his arrogance, a deeply ingrained flaw, stubbornly resurfaced. "Papers can be forged," he spat, desperately clinging to his rapidly eroding control. "I don't trust anything this guy presents." Marcus smiled inwardly. Taylor, with every contemptuous word, was meticulously digging his own professional grave. His years of systematic documentation, the detailed file containing names, dates, witnesses, and recordings of similar discriminatory cases against military guards, were all about to converge. "General," Marcus said respectfully, his voice calm amidst the escalating drama, "Mr. Taylor has every right to question protocols. Perhaps we could resolve this administratively." "There's nothing to resolve," Taylor exploded, his composure completely shattering. "This military theater won't work with me. I don't care how many generals show up here." The crowd around them swelled, passengers abandoning calls and rushing closer to witness the unfolding spectacle. A local news crew, coincidentally at the airport covering another story, noticed the commotion and began to discreetly approach. "Mike Johnson!" Taylor shrieked, now completely unhinged. "Escort this person out of the terminal. Use force if necessary." General Morrison stepped forward, her posture radiating quiet authority. "I wouldn't recommend that," she warned. "And why not?" Taylor challenged, his voice shaking with a mixture of rage and fear. "Because you military men think you own the world?" At that precise moment, Marcus discreetly dialed a number on his phone, a pre-programmed call designed to activate a sequence of high-level contacts Taylor could never have imagined. Over the next 15 minutes, very specific people would receive automatic notifications about the situation unfolding in that terminal. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus stated, his voice maintaining absolute calm, "are you sure you want to continue down this path?" "Absolutely," Taylor shouted, now entirely out of control. "I don't care if you brought the entire army. This is my airport." Private Rodriguez's coffin remained, a silent, dignified witness to the burgeoning tension. Marcus looked at the American flag draped over it, and a strange calm washed over him. Taylor had no idea he had just challenged not just a cemetery guard, but an entire vast network of military personnel and veterans that Marcus had meticulously built over the years. General Morrison leaned closer to Marcus, her voice a low whisper. "Do you have everything documented?" "Every word, every gesture," Marcus replied quietly. "And this is just the beginning." Taylor, observing their suspicious conversation, lunged forward aggressively. "Enough whispering. Either you leave now or I'll call security to remove you by force." It was then that Marcus's phone began to vibrate incessantly. Messages flooded in from numbers Taylor could never have conceived were relevant to this situation. The meticulously constructed plan was materializing even faster than Marcus had anticipated. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus said, an almost imperceptible smile touching his lips, "are you sure you know all the people who are watching this situation right now?" As Taylor looked around at the crowd of passengers holding up their cell phones, he remained utterly oblivious that some of those seemingly ordinary individuals were about to orchestrate the absolute worst day of his professional life. The moment of absolute truth arrived when General Morrison's phone rang. Her expression shifted, her eyes widening almost imperceptibly. "General Morrison." A voice on the other end was unmistakable, the Secretary of Defense of the United States. "I'm seeing on social media a situation involving one of our best honor guards. What's going on there?" Taylor, who until that moment had maintained his arrogant posture, began to frown, catching snippets of the conversation. "Yes, sir. Sergeant Williams is here with me. Yes, he is being prevented from carrying out his official mission." Marcus watched Taylor's face visibly drain of color. The first crushing domino was falling. "Mike Johnson," Taylor ordered nervously to his assistants. "Remove these people immediately. I don't care who they think they are." It was at that critical juncture that Marcus received a call and put it on speakerphone. "Sergeant Williams, this is Colonel Thompson from Special Operations Command." "Sir, We have just been informed by multiple sources about your situation. A team is on its way to the airport. Taylor's blood ran cold. Multiple sources? What are you talking about? Marcus finally allowed himself a full, genuine smile. A smile that made Taylor realize with crushing certainty that he had utterly, catastrophically underestimated the man before him. "Mr. Taylor," Marcus stated, his voice resonating with quiet authority, "over the past 3 years, I have systematically documented more than 40 cases of discrimination against military personnel at this and other airports." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Your comments today were broadcast live to a network of more than 200 veterans and active military personnel." "That's impossible," Taylor stammered, his confidence visibly crumbling. Marcus held up his phone, displaying the screen for everyone to see. "Live broadcast on Instagram, 47,000 people watching. Facebook Live, 23,000 viewers. And that's just the beginning." Taylor's face turned white as a sheet. You were broadcasting?" "Every word, every gesture," Marcus confirmed calmly, "including your statement that military uniforms mean nothing and that military sacrifice is staged." General Morrison stepped forward, showing her own phone. "Mr. Taylor, you just went viral. #RespectMilitary is trending nationwide." At that very moment, the terminal doors swung open, admitting an impressive entourage. 3 generals in full dress uniform, 2 colonels, a congressional representative, and to Taylor's absolute horror, the Director General of the Airport Administration himself. "Taylor!" The Director General's voice boomed, echoing through the stunned terminal. "My office now." But Marcus wasn't finished. "Mr. Taylor," he said, his voice carrying clearly, "I'd like you to meet some of the people who were disguised as ordinary passengers today." One by one, individuals in the crowd began to identify themselves. Colonel Williams, retired. Sergeant Major Davis, Afghanistan veteran. Captain Rodriguez, brother of the soldier being escorted. The last one identified himself in a way that made Taylor almost faint. Senator Mitchell, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. "No, this can't be real," Taylor muttered, looking around in total panic, his world imploding. Marcus approached, his military dignity utterly intact. "For years, you and other supervisors have treated military personnel like second-class citizens. Today, Mr. Taylor, the entire country has seen who you really are." Taylor's phone began ringing incessantly, calls from the media, from airport management, from veterans organizations. He glanced at his screen and saw dozens of social media notifications, all negative, all about him. "My job," he whispered, reality finally sinking in. "My family will see this." General Morrison turned to the stunned passengers, her voice resonating with authority that commanded their full attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "today you have witnessed a perfect example of why we must always stand up for those who have stood up for our freedom. Sergeant Williams represents the very best of the U.S. military." Spontaneous applause erupted, a wave of sound that echoed through the terminal. Passengers, who had been mere observers, now offered deliberate, heartfelt respect. Veterans in the crowd snapped to salute, while others, their eyes misting, looked toward Private Rodriguez's coffin, understanding the profound honor being defended. Taylor made one last, desperate attempt to salvage his crumbling reality. I didn't know. I didn't mean to." He stammered, his bravado utterly gone. Marcus, with the quiet calm of a man who had already secured victory, interrupted him. "Mr. Taylor, your intentions were made very clear when you said you didn't care how many generals showed up, when you called my uniform theater, when you disrespected the memory of a dead soldier." The airport's Director General, his face grim and unyielding, approached Taylor. "Taylor," he stated, his voice leaving no doubt as to the supervisor's fate, "you have 5 minutes to clear your desk. Security will escort you out of the building." As Taylor was led away, humiliated in front of hundreds of people in the terminal and thousands more watching online, his figure slumped, his shattered pride starkly visible. The immediate fallout was swift and brutal, a public unraveling that served as a chilling, yet satisfying culmination of his unchecked arrogance. Marcus Williams, having fulfilled his sacred duty to Private Rodriguez, now found himself thrust onto a national stage. His actions, a testament to unwavering courage and dignity, reverberated far beyond the airport terminal. The Department of Defense, recognizing his exceptional conduct and principled stand, promoted him to Master Sergeant and appointed him as a national spokesperson for military respect initiatives. This wasn't merely an advancement. It was a profound vindication, affirming that true honor lies not just in service, but in defending the very essence of that service. Universities across the country began extending invitations for him to speak. Marcus delivered powerful lectures on dignity, resilience, and the critical importance of systematically documenting discrimination. As Senator Mitchell, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, declared during a congressional hearing, the Marcus Williams case changed how we document and confront institutional bias. He proved that one person with courage and intelligence can take on discriminatory systems and win. The most impressive outcome was the expansive ripple effect Marcus ignited. Other service members, inspired by his meticulously documented victory, began adopting his methods. Within just 6 months, more than 20 similar cases of discrimination were exposed nationally. This surge in documented evidence led directly to significant policy changes at numerous airports, companies, and government institutions across the country. The Williams Protocol, a new set of comprehensive guidelines, was implemented at the international airport where the incident occurred, ensuring respectful treatment for all military personnel on duty. Marcus himself was invited to personally oversee the training of all new supervisors, embedding the lessons of that day directly into the institution's culture. The Rodriguez family, who had witnessed the entire humiliating ordeal and subsequent vindication unfold on social media, sent Marcus a deeply moving personal letter. "Our James didn't just die serving his country," they wrote. "His death became a catalyst for change that will protect other service members from similar humiliation. You have honored our family in a way we will never forget." Marcus's steadfast resolve had not only honored a fallen hero but had forged a new path forward, fundamentally altering how dignity and respect for service were upheld. "It's ironic," Marcus reflected during a national interview 6 months later. "Taylor thought he was humiliating a black soldier who didn't know his place. In fact, he was creating an opportunity for me to show the entire country where I really belong, at the forefront of the fight for dignity and justice." His quiet stand had sent an undeniable message to every supervisor, every bureaucrat, every individual who dared to disrespect those who served. General Morrison, who had witnessed the entire ordeal, summed it up perfectly. Marcus didn't just defend the honor of a dead soldier. He demonstrated that intelligence, preparation, and moral courage are the most powerful weapons against prejudice. Taylor, last seen working as a clerk far from the world he once knew, became a national example of what not to do. His public humiliation video garnered 12 million views in 2 weeks, forever defining his professional existence. But the true transformation was in the organizational culture. Airport employees now understood that their actions could be documented and exposed, fostering genuine respect. Marcus kept a special photo on his desk. Him and General Morrison, standing by Private Rodriguez's coffin, a crowd of respectful onlookers in the background. Beneath it, a simple plaque read, "Dignity is not negotiable. Respect is not begged for. Justice is earned." His enduring wisdom, shared in lectures, resonated. The best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something bigger than they could ever imagine and making sure others don't go through what you went through. Today, new National Cemetery recruits begin their training with the Marcus Williams case. A powerful lesson. Honoring the dead means defending the living, and well-documented dignity is an unstoppable force.